Good evening. Welcome to our nightly devotional. We're continuing on our journey through Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, found in Matthew 5 and following. Tonight we're in Matthew chapter 5, verses 31 and 32. It's a brief section on a popular but not happy topic, that of divorce. It says, it has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Now, we just finished last night talking about adultery and its underlying emotion, that of lust, desiring your own pleasure at the sake or the cost of another. So instead of love, which seeks to sacrifice the self for the other, lust is its opposite, in which you seek to sacrifice the other for the sake of yourself. In this one, we're looking at divorce, and there was a reality in the Israelite community that all they had to do was to write out a certificate of divorce to their wife without any cause or justification, and they were free of her. I mean, if she burnt the toast, they could write out a certificate of divorce and she would be divorced. And in that time and that day and age, that meant that she was without support, without financial means. And so she was either going to become a washerwoman, relegated to not just menial, but back-breaking, difficult labor to barely survive, or into prostitution. Neither one pleasant options for that day and that age, or for this day and this age. So Christ says, instead of just having whatever you want as a man in our community, and you can just marry somebody and promise them the moon and then get rid of them when you're done with them, whenever you're tired of them for whatever reason, and write them a certificate of divorce, Christ is telling the men of his generation, or the men of that day, very clearly that when you get married, the two become one flesh. And you're not supposed to rip those two asunder, that there's only one legitimizing reason for divorce, and that is sexual immorality. She's cheated on you, or he's cheated on her. Why? Well, because you made a covenant between God and yourselves that said that until death do us part, we're going to be married, we're going to be wed, and we're going to be faithful to one another. And so what happens when somebody is unfaithful is they've broken that covenant. They've broken that contract. So if you will, the contract becomes null and void when somebody breaks it. Just like any other contract. If one of the two parties has broken the contract is null and void. Now, you can choose to forgive somebody who's cheated on you and try to heal that marriage, and sometimes that works out well. Sometimes it works out okay. Sometimes it works out famously well. Sometimes it doesn't work out at all. You don't know. You take the risk. But what I want to make clear here is that Christ's impetus is to state that when you get married, you're in it for life, with the exception of the broken contract by somebody being unfaithful. Now, divorce isn't simply just a contractual arrangement between people of their legal majority, where you can make a decision and it's binding upon one another, and then if it's broken, you can settle that in a court of law and you go on your merry way. That's not the way it works. It's not the way it functions. Divorce is not just a legal contract. It is a legal covenant, if you will, but one that is solemnized, if you will, by intimacy. And that you can't take back. The two become one flesh. I don't know if you've ever done this or not, but if you would like to try this tonight, it'd be a great time. Just take a little strip of duct tape. A little strip of duct tape and an old blanket or something you don't really care that much about. And if you go ahead and pause the video and run and get those things and come right back. We'll wait for you. Welcome back. If you have your duct tape and your blanket, what I want you to do is to adhere that, stick that to that blanket. And then what I want you to do is to rip it off. And then I want you to put it back on the blanket again. And I want you to rip it off. And I want you to do that 5 times. And I want you to realize what happens over those times. Go ahead and pause the video. We'll come back again. Welcome back again. So I hope you discovered a truth about the two becoming one. As long as the two are one, that bond stays secure. But divorce, much like ripping off the duct tape, once you rip it off, they both lose a little bit. They both leave something behind. They're both not really fully whole again in the way that they were. And so you can go on removing and removing and removing, and it's not as sticky as it once was. The same thing to some degree is true of divorce. Sometimes it's necessary, but it's never joyful. Sometimes it's the best and only option. And Christ allows for that. But it's not something to be done lightly or flippantly, as the Jewish men of Christ's day had been. They were simply calling it quits because they were tired of it. Ladies and gentlemen, when you get married, you stand before man and before God, and you say, for better, for worse, for sickness and health, richer, for poorer, till death do us part. And the reality is, even if you don't mean it, and even if you go your separate ways, the two did become one. Neither one will ever be the same again. May God bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And if you're one of those that has gone through divorce, and there are many, I want you to know that Christ heals as well. May God bless you. Good night.